You know Sonny Paul, obviously. You've got Adam, who's just doing his hair, trying to make himself.
Oh, Paul, you're all right, mate.
Oh, look,
they're all right.
But thank you.
No, honestly, thank you for coming on. It's just a chat really about football and about you and what you've done and that kind of thing. So it's just see where it goes. I know I've obviously spoken to you in the past about different things. I know some of the boys have got different questions. I always love Italia 90 and you when you speak about that, because I just think I look at it as such a good time, such a memorable time. The music, the summer here was really hot. The players, and I don't know, I'd say the success that England had. So I always love it when I hear you talk about Italia 90. So that's my first thing I was going to ask you about Italia 90.
Well, you know that obviously you're putting yourself down as old.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I weren't even born. We weren't even born, me and Sonny then.
I definitely weren't born then.
That's too much information. And Sonny, you need to sort your barnet out. Goodness sake.
None of you open soon.
Which one of you was you talking to there? Because mine's a bit dodgy at the minute as well.
No, you're right. You've just got a massive quiff.
I said whenever we next play football again, I said next time I get a hat trick, I'll get a haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Is it already? You're looking like a mad professor.
Stop going back to the future. But no, Italia 90. Tell us. I don't know. Tell us your good memories about Italia 90. I'd love it. As I said, it's 30 odd years ago, isn't it? But it's brilliant.
My good memories of Italia 90. Sitting on the coach with my with a set of headphones on.
Yeah.
And having my what was it called then? My DVD player, having to hold it flat, listening to Soul to Soul.
Soul to Soul.
Yeah.
Keep on moving.
So it's just one of them, just having that. And the thing about it, if the bus was to jog or anything, it would be like a Silas on a record. It would just go and it would just bump out and things. But that was music at its time. They were the top thing to have. A disc player, that's what they were, and you're walking around with this, you'll have your football bag and a little bag inside it just full of discs. It was ridiculous really when you think about it today. That was one of them. I would say the best moment and the scariest moment was, I suppose, when Bobby Robson told me after we drew with Ireland 1-1 that I was going to play in the next game, and it kind of caught me the night before or maybe late afternoon, and he just said I was playing. There wasn't a lot of talk. It was just a case of I brought you in to play as a wing back to help us get closer to Holland, because they're a team we can't really have a lot of time on the ball. He said he's going to pack the midfield and see how it goes from there. And to be perfectly honest, we got what we deserved out of it, a point, but really in theory, given the opportunities we had 2 goals disallowed. Out of the group games, it was our best performance.
Yeah, I remember that before. It was a good performance. I remember that. I still remember it really clearly. It's a rarity because that was a really good Dutch side then, wasn't it? And it was a time when I almost felt we started to match some of those sides, like the Dutch sides. There was a moment when I thought, actually, this is a good England side. This is a real opportunity. And that kind of went on, didn't it? Through the next, was it Poland next or Poland last? I can't remember.
No. The games we played Egypt next. Egypt was our next game, and we went back. 1-0. We went back to a flat back 4. I've still played in that game, which caught me by surprise because Bobby Robson was very loyal to his players. He stuck through them. He stuck with a lot of them from what happened in '88 in the Euros. Kept them on, and he stuck with them all the way through. And for me to have kept me place in front of Gary Stevens, who never missed a game, even friendlies, Bobby Robson hardly changed the team. He wasn't giving caps away for anything. He wanted people to earn the right to have them. So to play against Egypt, knowing that we had to win against Egypt, because if we was even then to maybe sneak through, we'd have been 3rd place, and then that meant that we'd have to go to Rome to face the Italians. And Bobby Robson kept talking about that all the time. But Mark Wright bobs up and puts a header in, and we win that game 1-0. If I remember rightly, the Egyptians had two brothers, both of them their top two players, and one of them had a shot from about 2-3 yards, I think it was, and Peter Shelton made a save. Which, again, that would have been another story, really. That would have been if that had gone in, and England drawing 1-1 with Egypt and maybe sneaking through or not getting through at all. But and from then after that, we went and played. We went to Bologna and we played Belgium. Belgium, and that game was famous for David Platt and his goal.
Last-minute goal, yeah.
Yeah, the Gazza free kick, which Bobby Robson initially thought Gazza was just running up just to whack it a goal because there wasn't much time left. But Gazza corrected his stride and chipped a ball to the right-hand side of the goal to David Platt, who spun like a ballet dancer and put in an incredible goal, which the goalkeeper has saved it. You would have said he's got foresight, because I don't think anyone expected, first of all, Gazza to chip that ball and David Platt to swing like that, and surprisingly didn't rip his groins apart the way he actually swung. But he goes and does that, saves us from going into penalties. And then after that, we play maybe the game where when you talk about good fortune, we had seriously good fortune against Cameroon.
Yeah.
I remember after we played Belgium in Bologna, Howard Wilkinson, who was doing scouting for England, says to us, we've got to buy, because the next round, playing Cameroon is a buy. He's been watching them, and we've definitely got to buy. And it absolutely, maybe in certain terms, sums up Howard Wilkinson and maybe how he watched that game, because if he had played for 90 minutes 120 minutes against them, you would have realised that you wouldn't. Buys are not like that. Normally, you walk them. Buys, they're easy games, and it would have been easier to walk on hot coals than play against that when we played against Cameroon, because they were a good football inside. They were the ones who kind of were just maybe the first side when someone actually said after an African side is going to win a World Cup.
Yeah,
they talked about an African side, or say at least getting to a World Cup final. And there's been a few occasions where maybe a little bit of naivety have cost African sides, but naivety certainly cost Cameroon that evening, because they could have gone 3-1 up. It was someone being a little bit arrogant. Peter Shelton being in the right place at the right time. We could have gone 3-1 down.
Yeah.
And what we do in the end is we end up getting ourselves back into a game and scoring. Gary Lineker scoring 2 penalties, which you're never going to see 100% penalties, is what you saw then. Both of them, if they weren't given as penalties, the players should have then been taken away and gone down for assault, because they were woeful, the challenges. And we get over the line there, and you to see everyone sitting in the dressing room, and everyone knew that we had good fortune there. In that time and so many occasions, and we had to work really, really hard physically just to get through. And I think that kind of made us think, really, because I think once we got past Belgium, I think we did, in a way, take it for granted. I think a few players, if they're honest with themselves, would say that they did take their foot off the gas a little bit, and maybe believing that it was just going to happen. It certainly didn't do that, but we got through that one. And then when you look at the game after, then that no one was ever going to take their foot off the gas. Everyone knew what that next game meant.
Paul, can I quickly just, so before you just going back, and that's what I'm saying, is I love hearing all the stories, but going into that tournament where you said you didn't feel like you was a starter, kind of, you weren't expecting to play, but how was your mentality going into that tournament? Was it kind of, I'm going to a World Cup, which, is anyone's dream, or was it So, like, did you feel like there was going to be a way into for the team for you, or was you kind of expecting in your head mentally, look, like you're saying, Stevenson, you'd never really see him lose a game, not play a game. So was you kind of foot off the gas, or was you going pedal to the metal, like preparing for the World Cup?
I was personally, I was preparing and hoping I was going to be really, in seriousness, fit enough to be a sub, because of just before that World Cup, I was struggling a bit with a hernia problem, both sides a hernia. So before I went, prior to that, I had a broken toe, so I missed. Lucky enough, I missed the last 2 games of that season through suspension. I got sent off against Manchester City. So I missed the last couple of games. I had a broken toe as well. And then I had to have cortisones either side of my groin, just so I could just be able to go, fit enough to go. And I just believed that I was just, my hardest thing I had to do was just warm up. That's all. At home, from where I've gone along and sat on the bench at so many games. Prior to that, I'd only played 15 minutes of one qualifying game, and that was coming on sub in April '89 against Albania. So that was my that was me. That was my kind of initiation to playing the World Cup. 15 minutes of competitive football, pre-game for that tournament. So I was just waiting there. So when I go and I'm not playing the first game, I think, okay, used to this. Maybe not, maybe the best way of thinking, but when you're there with Bobby Robson's squad, you know that. And so the next game, you know, I don't believe that he was going to change it, because he'd always stuck with those players for all the group games. And then for him to actually throw into my face the night before that I was actually starting in that game against the Dutch, of all things. If you look at it today, how players are assessed today, how people talk about it, and they use a certain word, which is trust. Bobby Robson trusted to bring me in from the cold. So I'd been out there a long, long time. He could have seen that I was maybe turning blue. He just trusted me to go and play against, you know, at the time, maybe one of the top 3 sides in Europe, and maybe one of the top 5 sides in the world at that given time, with the likes of Van Basten, with Rijkaard, and with Hullet, just to name the 3. Oh yeah, and plus Koeman as well. So they wasn't a bad side, and we done very well against them.
Was that difficult then, like you're saying, to switch your mentality, or as a player for you, was it always like you're saying, because every player will say that you get used to your role in the team, don't you? So, you know, if you go to a Tuesday night, you're thinking, I might not come on tonight, so you'll prepare a bit less. But then, was that a shock to the system when he told you, or was you actually prepared for that, or did it take you a little bit extra to think, like, oh wow, I'm playing in a World Cup tomorrow?
I'm glad I was more prepared, definitely, for that game, because I knew the night before, and if he'd have pulled me off the bench, I don't think I would have been that well prepared, because I think I was in that mindset of, so I'm not going to go on. It's only if Gary Stevens gets injured or Stuart Pearce does something that I might go on. The likes of Terry Butcher was never going to come off in a million years. Des Walker wouldn't come off with his whole family on a touchline telling him that there was a mass murder after him. Des, you couldn't drag him off anywhere. So to start, it was great for me. Nervy, I don't think I slept that night. But the thing about it is that if I went out and I played, and it was what I had said I always wanted to do. You hear all these stories about people saying, "Oh, when I was young, this is what I want to do." That was the middle bit of it. What I wanted to do. To be honest, one of the things I wanted to do. I definitely wanted to play for the biggest club possible. I wanted to play in an FA Cup final, and I wanted to play in the World Cup. People say they wanted to play for their country. I wanted to play in the World Cup the moment I sat down and watched the 1974 World Cup, and I don't want to hear about you not being born then.
Yeah, no, at least two of them happened. You know, you said you wanted to play for a big club. By that, I presume you mean Man United, but Liverpool must have been much better, mate. You know what I mean? So at least you got 2 of the 3. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you a quick story about Liverpool. Me and Liverpool was that at the age of 21, when I was at Fulham, Liverpool come in for me, and Liverpool offered the figure, and my chairman at the time of Fulham was a fella called Ernie Clay, a Yorkshireman who owned he had a property business, and he asked for an extra 50 grand more for me to go. So I think it was for me to go at 21 to go to Liverpool. Liverpool turned it down and said, no, we're not going to pay that. The deal's off. They said that the extra 50,000 wasn't worth it because what they offered was enough for potential. So they thought I was potentially got a chance of being a player. Nowadays, people will go out and spend anything up to about 40 million for potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that tells you how much the game's changed.
What year would that have been? And then when you was 21?
I was 21, so I'm gonna have a guess, and I'm gonna say that it would have been about 19. I would have been about 83. No, sorry, I'm lying there. No, about 85. 85. Yeah, so that would have been.
Did that then, looking back then now, obviously you went on to have a tremendous career and stuff, but obviously Liverpool, obviously the famous Heysel was that year. Obviously they won it in '84, and then he got to the final again. With that then, obviously when you knew about it, before Man United obviously started ruling the world properly, did that ever come into you think, oh mate, I could have been straight in the European Cup final then back? Did that ever play on your mind then, or was it always, okay, someone else will come in and pay the money for me?
Be honest, really, I always thought I was going to be at Fulham all the time. I never, because I was at Fulham from the age of 11. Everyone who there knew from a young age. I always thought I was going to be there. I didn't see anything really on the outside. I lived in that bubble because there wasn't as what we're getting now. You know what's happening, and the 3 days along now, don't you? You know what's going on. Everybody's telling you. Every outlet's telling you. So, but if I'd have been offered the opportunity, then I would have gone, because of during that time, everybody watched Liverpool. Everybody was in awe of Liverpool. And when Liverpool played games in Europe, everyone supported Liverpool in Europe, maybe not in Manchester, for obvious reasons. But I didn't know. I mean, I never knew about then the Liverpool-Manchester United rivalry. I never realised what it was all about. You just saw games, big games. You always saw it as football. You didn't realise it was a life issue. So, but yes, at that, any player my age in that era would have jumped at Liverpool, because everyone loved watching Liverpool in Europe, because every time they played in Europe, they seemed to win.
It's interesting, Paul. That was the era, though. You said any English team that was in Europe, you supported them, didn't you? It was as simple. It didn't matter who it was. You supported that team. You wanted them to do well. I guess that's a bit different.
Less teams got into Europe though, then, didn't they? So was it just the league champions? Was it?
Yes, the league champions got into the European Cup. Then a team that finished second went in the UEFA Cup, and then you had the FA Cup winners. But the hardest one to win, which everyone says, is the UEFA Cup, because you played more games, and then when you're in that as well, you're playing the second best team of every country. So it was a hard one to win that. The Cup Winners' Cup was the easiest, because anybody can win an FA Cup, can't they?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Paul, I've got a question. You've mentioned obviously Liverpool, famous Dutch side, and I want to know who is the best player you played against at any point, because you've mentioned some big teams. So I want to know who's the best.
He must have been good.
I always I'm trying to think what his name was. He never really got. There's two players, to be honest. One of them who I played against in that World Cup was Enzo Schifo.
Yeah,
was an incredible part Italian Belgian player. He's one who hit the inside of the post twice against us, and I started following him after that. And he played in Italy, but he was such an underrated player. But the great players and top players of that time didn't always go and play for the top clubs in Europe. They didn't go and play in Italy for your Juves, your AC, and your Inter Milans. So the other player he was known, what was he known as? I can see him, and I'm trying to think what his name is. I can see him, he was Italian, and I may have marked him when we played the third and fourth game. The ponytail.
Oh, yeah.
I always keep forgetting his name.
Sonny, me and you'll just relax here.
He played for Sampdoria and Juventus, didn't he?
I don't know, Baggio, something like that?
Yes, thank you very much. Roberto Baggio.
Oh, Roberto Baggio, nice.
Yeah.
I just thought ponytail.
Yeah.
I was asked to mark him in that third and fourth playoff, and to be honest, he was that clever. Every time he held it too long, I was too far away, and every time he come into him, and when he did get it into his feet, I was too far away because initially before he'd played one touch, so I couldn't go anywhere near him. After I fouled him the first time, when he played it first time, I couldn't really go near him that much, maybe more so than what you can do in today's game. But he was too clever. And when he ran as well, there was me, and I was quick. But when I was running quick, everyone could see I was running quick. When he was running quick, he was gliding. He was like a speed skater. And he's typically Italian, he's flowing hair and things like that. And a lot of Italians, he had the looks as well, and he had me huffing and puffing behind him. But he was a seriously good player, incredible. It was just injuries done him, and he had knee injuries. Otherwise, we'd be talking about him, maybe, and remembering him when people try and match maybe the likes of Messi and Ronaldo up against him. To be perfectly honest, he was that good.
Was he that good? Yeah.
Yeah, he was that good.
There was a game made about him, obviously. What me and Sonny will have played, used to be a Roberto Baggio free kick game. So obviously that's how I kind of know what my dad telling me stories. But for you to say that he would have been in, like, even in the same kind of sentence as them kind of people is amazing. And you remember with the locks, and I remember that's brilliant. That's I didn't know he was that special. But obviously for you to be directly up against them, because the coverage weren't as much back then as well, Paul, was it? So, a player now coming through 6-7 years old can have a YouTube channel and look like the best thing since sliced bread. But obviously, you'd probably see the highlights of once a week or something, wouldn't you? And you get a small clip of them. Is that how it'd be?
Yeah, it was that you never saw a lot of European players. So when you go to a World Cup or a Euros, then you didn't know. All you got was you knew more about a reputation and what you knew about the player. You'd never seen them play. Football here, really in fair for Europe, never got going until after that World Cup. And when Paul Gascoigne went to Lazio, that's when everyone started taking notice of Italian football, and Italian football was strong then. AC Milan had the Dutch players. All three of them went to AC Milan. Ray Wilkins went and played at AC Milan with Mark Hateley. He was there. Des Walker went to Sampdoria. Yeah. David Platt went to Bari, then ends up at Juve, and then ends up at Bari. Yeah, that's where he ends up at Bari in the end. So and that's where we played the third and fourth playoff. So a lot of English players were going to Italy, which was the place to go if you wanted something good on your CV. It was all about trying to get to a top European club, but more importantly, an Italian club. And finally, I've done my cruciate in November 1990, playing in the Zenith Data Cup away to Southampton at the Old Dell in front of about 3,500 people. I was forced to play. I just come back, and Don Howe forced me to play. I was coming back in from a groin injury. He said to me I needed the game. I said I didn't want to play. He played me in it. My goalkeeper ends up doing my cruciate. Just then when they were talking about me going to an Italian side, going to Lazio. So, so but again, talk is cheap, but that could have been something that could have materialised. But injury killed that one. But in a certain way, fate turns around, and the following July, I signed for Manchester United.
You played with some good players there, didn't you, as well? Yeah,
I was quite fortunate that the dressing room I walked in was one that even I was in awe of when I went there. I thought I was quite a big fish at Queen's Park Rangers. I went to Manchester United and I just become a tiddler. It was just incredible just to sit in the dressing room and to be able to look around and say, I'm actually going to play football with these, and I need to sort myself out and make sure that I'm tuned in every single day rather than sometimes going through the motions of QPR.
That was your most successful time, wasn't it? So Premier League, you won Premier Leagues, you won FA Cup, you won what was Community Shield then, wasn't it? What's now the League Cup?
Yeah, I've won two Premier Leagues, one League Cup final Leicester as well, which we lost to Aston Villa.
Was that your most enjoyable time?
And the
What's it like winning an FA Cup? Obviously.
Sorry, Pete.
Oh, sorry, I just lost you there for a sec. Sorry, I'd said, was that your most enjoyable league football time in terms of Man United winning all those?
I enjoyed the part, that part of it, because it's what you set yourselves out for, is to play football, but to play football, play for big sides, representing country, and to win medals. Yeah. That's what gives people who you pass on the street and people you see, it gives them the opportunity to ask you something, to talk about something, and that's what a lot of people relate to. They want to ask just what Sonny was going to say there about the FA Cup. What is it like to play in it? What is it like to win it? And I think in a modern way, I think a lot of the young players have missed out on that because they've gone. In theory, when I was younger, I was kind of around. In today's world, it was like Primark. It was kind of like you was in that kind of world, and all of a sudden the FA Cup was your it was your big C&A, it was your big shop, it was that big one. But they look at it but the FA Cup now is just deemed, it's deemed something that's just like, it's like a market stall. It's not worth the paper it's written on. It's all about the Champions League. The Champions League is great to play in, but it's not the be-all and end-all. The biggest thing for me is to be strong domestically and get something in the bank domestically. Champions League, you can look forward to it, but to miss out on the opportunity to play in an FA Cup final, because you see now players, let's put it this way, David May played, when United done the treble, David May played in one FA Cup game, and that was the final. So there was other players who were played, they never got an opportunity to play in the final. So if you're going to play in an FA Cup final, you want to be one of the 11, you want to get on the pitch. So you think to yourself, when you look at your medal, you've done something for it, because there's nothing worse, in my opinion, is getting something that you haven't worked for. So there was a lot of players there's one player, and I can't think who it was, who played 6 out of the 7 games in the FA Cup, never played in the final. So as much as he can say this, he won it, but people go, but you weren't in the team. Oh no, but played the six before. The manager, just because of the Champions League, people are not going to have that. Yeah. So when you hear young kids, I want to play in the Champions League, you say to them, why? And they're just seeing all the bright lights, they're seeing everything that goes with it. But there's a little bit of groundwork to go into. There's an apprenticeship to be served in football, in my opinion, before you can start doing that. And I think media, everything's being pushed away from young players, kids from school, from playing in club sides, club football, youth football, grassroots football. They're not really getting the right projection of football, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love the FA Cup. For me, Sonny and Adam probably wouldn't remember it, but you would probably. The FA Cup final was a whole occasion on TV, wasn't it? ITV, BBC, they'd have a whole build-up from the first thing in the morning, and normally you had to pick a team you wanted to win, so you supported one team. Even though it wasn't your team, you had a team on that day, but they'd have all sorts going on TV all day for the build-up, and it was such a big occasion. But now it's not the same, is it?
No, it's being forced now. It's like if it was a puppet, there's someone's hand up there now trying to work it every time it's being played, and it's a rush project now. But it's the only time that you'd actually go out on a Saturday. If you went out and you wasn't a football person, you'll have every town centre to yourself.
Yeah,
because people didn't go out. Even non-football, pro football people would just stay and just to watch it because they know that there's other members of their family who are going to be there. So what are they going to go and do? And that's been lost now because the FA Cup, they keep chipping away at it, and then they pull it on at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's later now, isn't it?
It's later, which is everything's been sucked away from it, aiming only towards two projects: the Premier League and the Champions League.
You mentioned obviously the FA Cups and with your success with Man United. You played both with Gazza and with Cantona. Were they similar in some respects in character and personality?
I would say the only thing that makes them similar really is the fact that they were both players who were 100% born to play football. They both could improvise, and they were both mavericks. Their temperaments made them what they were. Without that temperament, they could never, ever be the players they were. You have to have that edge to be that kind of player. And even Messi's got it. You've seen that in the last 12 months with Messi, with what's happened with him. You've seen Ronaldo, what he's like when things ain't going his way. The best players you can think of, they're not bookworms, and when they go home, they read books and things. They're people who are on the edge. There's something that just sparks something and they react.
Is there a moment with either of them, either in training or a match, when you just got like a wow moment, or was there a lot of that with those two? I mean, Gazza's one of my favourite all-time players.
The one thing about them both, Pete, is that they trained the way they played. Right. Gazza could mostly have strolled around in training and, it's Gazza, it'll be all right. Match day, he won't let you down. But Gazza trained the way he played. He wanted to win, and if you cocked up and made a mistake in a five-a-side game, he'd break you. He would absolutely, virtually, when the sides were being picked next time, if he's picking it, he wouldn't pick you. And what he would do, he goes, I'm not picking you because you was crap last time. That's the kind of thing he'll come out and say. Eric trained in that way. Eric was kind of, even in training, if he gave the ball away, the biggest problem was the player who actually got the ball. Even though he's got the ball at his feet, he'd be more worried what Eric's going to do next because he's got the ball. Because that's how he was, Eric. He wanted to get it back as quick as possible. And when you go to the modern game now, and you look at Fernandes at Manchester United, you watch him when he loses the ball, you see what he does. Sometimes he switches off because he's berating himself because he's what he deems he's giving the ball away too cheaply, or something hasn't gone his way. He gets frustrated with himself, which is good in a way because it means something. You've seen players before who give the ball away and don't bother tracking back. But Fernandes tracks back, but he gets frustrated sometimes. And it's been a few occasions when he hasn't done that little bit of work he should do. So those kind of players have got that. They've got an edge to them. You have to have an edge to be, as Harry Redknapp would say, a top player.
Yeah. Would you go so far to say them two are geniuses? Obviously, that of the game is you're born that way. You're born kind of because that's what I always think is, you can't teach yourself to be that kind of person. You think that's just they were born to be. So if they went into any kind of sport or any kind of industry, do you think they would have been exactly the same? Or have they adapted the way they play football, do you think?
Well, Gazza was, anything that Gazza had to go at, he was good at, without doubt. And maybe he's clever enough trying to go and do what he knew he was good at. But every time he went and touched something, he was good at it. Or he would psych the person out and the person would wilt. He was that well, Gazza was just like that. Without doubt, we haven't produced a player anywhere near as good as Gazza. People will try and put people into his shoes, but we haven't got a player anywhere near him. They keep trying it, but we haven't produced a player since Paul Gascoigne, anyone as near to what he was. So if Paul Gascoigne could have stuck in the game a lot longer, we'd have been talking about a superstar.
Do you think we ever will?
Status.
With modern football, do you think we ever will with modern football? Because modern football doesn't allow that so much, does it?
It doesn't, Pete. But I think there's one player I think who's got the best chance of all. A player who, when he comes on, he makes an impact in what is deemed the great side, a good side as well at this current moment. Is Man City, is Phil Foden. Phil Foden is an incredible player.
Yeah, I agree.
Who's kind of eased into it. He had a hiccup with his national team, and he's got over that well and has responded in the right way. Hasn't said anything, just played football, and everyone is talking about Phil Foden and his football. He's the way he accepts the ball in tight areas, the way he goes and looks at the ball in tight areas. Now he's getting that aura about him when people are scared to get close to him. So what people do is they get close to him. If they can get close to him to stop him getting the ball, that's when they do it. They don't want to try and get close when they get it, because the moment he's got that ball under control, they've got a massive problem. So he's getting there. And I think he is the closest one we can talk about maybe having a midfield player that you'd say he could go and play for any top side in Europe. At the moment, we're trying to fabricate players into that mode. The media are trying to sell it, that you got people working off of stats. But when you talk about Phil Foden, players like that, you don't look at stats. No one shows stats of Messi's passing and things like that. You watch him play. It's the best way to judge a player is to watch them, and then you might look at stats. But if you look at stats and then try and look at a player, I'm sorry, I really do believe that's the wrong way round.
Yeah. Do you think the England national team now, and how it's went over the years, is a lot more robotic? Kind of, it seems to be like, decide the same set pieces all the time. It's the same kind of, and I love him, but Jordan Henderson kind of players where everything by the book, like you're saying. I thought you was actually going to like either say Foden or Jack Grealish. I feel like Jack Grealish is in kind of that mold of a maverick, but not to the same quality, but kind of, like Phil Foden said much better, but like kind of, it's more England national team is for me more of Henderson's, Harry Maguire's kind of by the book. This is how we play football the English way, rather. And like you're saying, is I feel like Grealish and Foden, I play like more a European style play.
Phil Foden, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Grealish, no. Jack Grealish is too laboured with the ball. Jack Grealish's claim to fame has been fouled, and he's been fouled more than anybody. That may be one of the worst stats ever. How can you have a stat like that? Why Sky do that? They must have made it up because they're trying to pump him up. But it's a ridiculous stat to have most fouled. If it was the same referee doing every single game, I'll have a little bit of belief with it. But it's different referees. We've got referees who they give a foul every single time. We've got players who are play acting. It's the worst stat ever. It's just so subjective. It's absolutely ridiculous. But what you're saying about England is that we're producing players from down the bottom all the way through. Everyone is playing the same. Everyone is playing percentage football. Everyone is about stats. If you improvise or do anything off the scale, you've got a big problem. The academies won't deal with it because they're looking at stats all the time. They want everything easy for them. They don't want the kid who can maybe think on his own 2 feet, who will go and try something, will step into that place where the crocodiles swim. They don't do that. You're not going to, in the moment, produce a Paul Scholes who's willing to go into the lion's den and find a way through. It's about just keeping the ball and keeping it simple and then get the crosses in, the slide rule pass, your eye of a needle, don't try that. England doesn't work that way. It's not the way they're going to play. You're not going to get the manager at this moment. Gareth Southgate is not going to go that way because he was never that manager, and he's in that stint at Middlesbrough. So he ain't going to change when he becomes the manager of England. And I think we've had one opportunity during my time. I can remember a manager who could do that, and that was Terry Venables. But he wasn't allowed to do his job because of something that had nothing to do with football. He hadn't gotten, it was madness what happened there really with Terry Venables. And there might have been an outside chance. If people talk about a chance of England doing something after 1990, and more so after 66, that the case could have been Terry Venables could have been that person in 98 if he was been allowed to carry on his job. So when something was there for England to go and grab, straight away, the white gloves come on and said, sorry, Terry, we can't carry on with you.
Yeah, how close we were in Euro 96 as well. Yeah, to carry that on, to carry that squad forward would have been good. You said about stats. I looked at your goal scoring stats. Was
good goals? They're good goals though. I like the one you got for QPR because it was all down the right side, weren't it? It started for a free kick, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I see it, and it was. I think did someone play it short first?
Yeah, Ray Wilkins.
I was looking at it, I was like, they did short free kicks back then. I didn't realise.
Back then, Paul, that's a liberty. That is a liberty.
It's not that old a game, Trust me.
Liberty,
I wasn't wearing ankle boots and long shorts.
I like the one against the one for Man U was a good goal as well. I remember when I had to make that video, it was a good goal. So even though they're not that many goals, I think they were good goals.
No, thanks for that. You give me one hand, you take away the other. But thanks.
Yeah. It's all right.
I once
quality.
Do you remember you scored against for Man United? Do you remember the goalkeeper you scored against? Your Man United goal.
What? Which one?
Which one? You only got one, didn't you, for Man United?
2.
Did you get 2?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You want about the one that scored against Spurs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric's Torstev.
So I'll tell you a story once. I was at Old Trafford once at a game, and we come out late because we were up high, and somebody asked me to sign a shirt for them because they thought I was Eric Torstev. I had a bit more hair then as well. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah.
You can see, yeah.
Maybe they thought I was.
Yeah,
did you sign it?
Look, yeah.
Yeah, I signed it. Peter Dale. Somebody's got a shirt with my signature on.
What's the craziest thing that happened to you? Just obviously like a fan kind of moment. Have you ever had any crazy requests, or where you think like, when's the moment where you feel like, wow, now I'm a real player? Or was it like, wow, like people are actually noticing me? How was that feeling when when you moved to Man United, or was it around when you was at Fulham and QPR?
No, it happened for me after the World Cup. I was living in Wokingham at the time. So I went to my local supermarket 2-3 days after I come back from there. And I walked into it and I was walking around doing bits, and you could suddenly see people pointing. And I was going around, and by the time I got round to where the tills were, they'd shut down the majority of the tills, and the manager come up and asked me, would I mind doing some autographs because it's causing, because there have been blockages everywhere. People have been following me around. So for about an hour and a half, I signed autographs in Safeways for people just in there, people who are doing shopping. Yeah, they looked after me afterwards for a month. They looked after me shopping wise, but that's when I suddenly realised that people now knew the face.
And what was that feeling like? Was it kind of where you knew you'd went and represented your country, or was it a pain in the arse sometimes when you thought, oh my God, I don't really want to go out there today because, or was it always a privilege to, honestly, like
no. I mean,
yeah,
to be honest,
I just see your face, so like,
the reason why I got that grin on my face is because, to be honest, it's a great question, and because I think if you go to majority players, and if you're anything like me, they'll be honest and come out and say is that didn't want it, I wanted to control it. Nah, that was me. It was terrible, but that's how it was. Now, you say it now, anyone comes up to me now, their biggest problem is trying to get away from me because I want to talk to them. Yeah, that's what happens sometimes.
Brilliant.
Well, that's why it's great to listen, but like to listen to what you've got to say. With the World Cup final, was you nervous going? Because I still picture like the national anthem, the thing going across, and there was you next to Lineker. And was you nervous at that final? Because that looked massive stadium, big occasion.
I'll come out and say no. I can remember a lot more being nervous for Manchester United at games and what I can do for those games out there. Because I think I was it seemed like I'd actually that those quarter zones I had in my groin had actually numbed my brain. I felt really along that way. I wasn't really feeling it, to be perfectly honest. I think maybe the one I can remember most is standing there for the game against West Germany. I think was West Germany then? Yeah, it was West Germany.
It was West Germany.
Yeah, so I can remember that more than any of the others because of what it was, because how that game was, what it just become really. I can remember that, but no, I wouldn't. I would say not as. There's always. I think there has to be something inside you before you start a game of football. I always say you've got to feel something. You can't be that kind of easy-ozy. You must have that edge. There's always an edge, and certain players have a bigger edge. And then I would, So I was quite calm at that. I would say at that moment in time, because I think I was still in that shock of that, the fact of what I was doing. I just said quite a while back, I was expecting to be out there and come back with shirts. We'd come back just with number 12 shirts that hadn't got any sweat on them.
Yeah, of course. What about the penalty? Because you assisted Linda's goal. What about the penalty? I wasn't going to talk about the other one. The penalty shootout, was that nervy? Because you wouldn't take a penalty, would you? I think you said to me before.
It's not about I wouldn't take one. I never said no, I'm not going to take one. Right. But I certainly tried my best to keep at the eye line, so I wouldn't be asked to take one.
Hand down a little bit like that, I'll have one,
yeah. I think there could have been half a chance I was trying to throw my boots into the crowd, but no, I think they threw them back. I think if it was going to take penalties, the only person who I like to think I'd have to take one in front of would be Peter Shelton.
Right.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I don't know if Shelton reached the goal, by the way. His goal kicks never already got out of the box.
Why was it? Why didn't you like taking them, no, Paul? Why weren't you a fan of the pens?
Well, I wasn't taking one.
Yeah, why? No, I mean, like, was it just nerve-wracking kind of? For me, I can only imagine. That's why I'm asking. So, like,
I mean, for anybody, I'd never ever go at anybody who misses a penalty and maybe try and assess and question anybody what they've done wrong from a penalty, because I've never taken one. But it must be nerve-wracking to walk from the halfway line.
That's where it's missed, isn't it? That's where it's missed.
That doesn't matter what level of football you're doing. It could be over the park. Just going to do that, and you've got everyone watching you, and you just know that if it ain't right, someone's going to keep reminding you about it. But when you get to the pinnacle game again of any level, and for professionals, it's a World Cup semi-final and a final, then, even then, you think about the likes of Stuart Pearce and Chris Waddle. They come back and they miss penalties, and both of them were mortified what happened. But they come out of it, and they both get major parts in the pizza advert.
I remember that.
Yeah.
So
I remember that.
Out of something deemed as horrific to a lot of people, all of a sudden there's a good bit that comes out of it. Both those players do a pizza advert.
Yeah. Even now thinking about it, it's just like that nervous feeling. It's like weird as if you're going to have a fight sometimes. I'm trying to imagine what it would be like. You're thinking, aren't you? You're not even thinking about even taking the penalty. You're thinking, if I miss here, like my family back home watching this, and 20 million people around the world are watching me, one person take one kick of a ball, and how, like, we still talk about in this country, like even me and Sonny are a lot younger, but we still know about 66. It lives on. The memory does live on of it, doesn't it? And it can kind of tarnish it, unless, like, obviously where Stuart Pearce went and scored, obviously redeemed himself and stuff, but Gareth Southgate missed in the
you two are both penalty takers for your clubs as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
You both take them as well, so you kind of know what.
And that, even now, I'm thinking when I missed one against Walsall in the last minute, that would honestly would have choked me for like 3 weeks. That's why I'm trying to kind of picture it there, all them, and just like, it does take a big set of cojones there in the World Cup, I think, to get up and take one.
I think with pens though, that nervousness, you've got to try and turn it into a positive. I know you've got a short amount of time to do it, but that's what I do. I don't get nervous taking pens because I think it's just a free shot on goal, and well, I've never missed one, so I don't know how it feels to miss one out. But
yeah, no, Paul, isn't it? Look, that's how you said that. Now you know where the next one.
Pete, just let me know next time. I'm waiting for the phone call.
I'll video it. I'll video it. Don't worry. I'll video it. I'll make sure.
No, I can't believe you said that.
I'll make sure it goes viral. Hashtag Sonny misses a penalty. I can see it now. Oh dear. What was Fergie like as a manager? He won the Fergie. He won the best. You played under some good managers. What was he?
Yeah,
like?
I mean the three best I played under was Jim Smith, Bobby Robson, and obviously Sir Alex. They were the best three. Sir Alex's strength was that he didn't bear grudges.
Yeah.
He'll have a bust up with you, and as long as you haven't disrespected him or Manchester United, then there's a chance that he'll get over it. But he never. I mean, I've seen him bust up. Go face to face with people. We'll jump on a bus. He'll bring down a box of beer, sit down in the back seats and drink beer and play cards, and he's gone. And then you start again. If it's a Monday morning from a home game, is exactly the same. If you question him after a game, he'll tell you next day, come into the training ground. You say, what time? He says, well, I'm there at 7 o'clock. That means you get there a minute before 7. And then you watch it. He'll put the video on, you watch the issue, and he'll say, then he'll say, okay, and then you move on. And that's what he was like, really. Weren't always. He wasn't one of those coaches who was engrossed or anything like that. He wasn't that kind of manager. He was a proper manager. He knew how to manage situations. He wanted to manage your problems if you had a problem as a player, which was one of the things he wanted to know, because he didn't want the surprise from someone else. And if he could deal with it, he would deal with it himself. But he never wanted to be surprised about anything that was coming in. I think that was put in place because he knew, I think, he was going to sign Roy Keane. So there was always surprises sometimes coming in about Roy. But he just needed to know. If he didn't know, oh, God help you. Jim Smith was mad. Jim Smith, absolutely crazy. He was incredible man. Just proper manager. Would throw teacups. He would throw everything. But you'd want everyone who's played for him, loved playing for him, played for him again, because he was that likable person away from the football pitch. If you'd done well for him, you was his mate, and he'll talk to you that way. If you'd let him down, let the team down by not doing things, then he wasn't the best to be around, Jim Smith. But he gave me a chance in the top division. I jumped 2 divisions, and he took me there to a team that was playing on a plastic pitch. He played me at centre half because he believed that I could do a job at centre half. After watching me play final 2 years at Fulham, there stuck with me in there. Played me as a man marker, sweeper. Then played me in a back 4 next to Big Alan McDonald, and I only became a fullback again when I went to United. And Bobby Robson, he was just one of those managers that when something wasn't going right and he was talking to you at half time, you wanted to go straight back out onto that pitch and rectify the problem, because you felt like you'd seriously let him down. He had that way about him. People tell me, Terry Butcher tells me that he mellowed because he was a fireball. He was manager for a short stint at Fulham, which I think was a little bit volcanic. But when people talking about Ipswich Town and my time when I had him over that, my time with the England squad over what, 4 years? 3 years, because it was 3 years. Yeah, 2 qualifiers. Yeah, 3 years, isn't he? He was an incredible man. You knew how you stood with him. You would never say a word out of place to him. You'd have to be correct on everything. As some of the media found out about him, he was sharp. He couldn't remember your name, but he knew everything else about what was said a week before, everything, 2 weeks before. He would never let anybody say anything bad, derogatory about his players. He'd always put himself in front of it and take all the abuse. Easy thing to say, but he went and done that. He took everything for England's poor results. He took it all on the chin himself, and what that man endured in the latter part of his life, which we only found out after, was absolutely incredible. And a lot of those people who said what they said and done what they done, I think a lot of them now still haven't lifted their heads.
Sure. No, he was a good, very good manager, really good. Did you think that those managers helped you? Because, like, you played at the top level of football. Do you think those managers helped you become mentally strong? Do you think you was already mentally strong? Do you think your upbringing made you mentally strong, or do you not? Or do you kind of take that for granted that it was just football?
No, it was me. It was me upbringing that got me to where I was, because I wanted it so much. I gave up everything. I gave up an education because I felt you couldn't do both, or I didn't want to be. I wasn't bothered about it because I felt football was going to be the rest of my life. Someone should have actually put it somewhere in me that it ends around the 30 odds. But I made me mind up that that's what I was going to do. Nothing was going to stand in my way. Any derogatory comments weren't gonna bother me, because I was brought up in that sticks and stones kind of era.
Yeah.
And even though they've changed that now to what suits them and the agenda, but nothing, even all the abuse of having to avoid people at train stations, hide round the corner of bus stops, wait, standing in the pouring rain when I was 8 and 9, waiting to get on buses to get to training, to get to games. All the little comments that are coming out in the dressing room when black players in the other team has done something, that player ain't happy with it, so he wants to say something. He says something, but it's all right, Paul. You're one of us. All those things that went on, and which you have to get on with.
Sure.
There's no way around it. Someone can come up now saying I wouldn't stand for that. I would turn around and say to them, well, first and foremost, let's go back in time and see everything around you and see how you deal with it. Because if you went somewhere, all it would do will end up you're throwing it to someone else. You're putting someone else under pressure, because the person you would go to would mostly be white, and they had nowhere to go with it, even if they was on your side. So you got on with it. And all players of my era, we all went through it and we all dealt with it. There's obviously a few who couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
But then they might not have been that strong-minded to have dealt with it. Mine would come from the fact of going to a school, being the only black kid in school for 3 years. So if I didn't get mental toughness from that, then somewhere along the line now, I think people might have found me buried in the airfield estate in Hornchurch somewhere, because and so many times when that was an airfield, before those houses went in it, chased across that by skinheads. And then getting home safely, then getting whacked round my bottom by my mum because my trousers got mud all over them. I didn't dare tell her what had happened outside, but there you are.
So that's got that's built your resilience, and I guess that gave you some desire as well, didn't it? To I guess to play, like, it improved your desire to challenge things and to become the best you could be.
It does. I mean, the easiest thing for me to have done is to have sulked about it and not done anything. The thing that I knew is that these people, those same people who were chasing me or calling all the names under the sun, were the same people who would stay behind after school and watch me doing athletics, watch me playing football for 2 years above myself. The little black fella on the wing, got to watch him come when school, because we used to play the games early in the winter in school, maybe a lesson and a half before the end because of the light, and they used to stand around the pitch and watch me play football. The ones who used to watch me in the summer, winning the high jump, winning the long jump, winning the triple jump, winning the 100 meters, winning the
high jump.
I won the high jump. Yeah,
okay.
I used to win the high jump. Watching me do the 800 meters, watching me win the 400 meters. The only one that got me any abuse really, which I couldn't do anything about, was when I was doing the javelin. So the obvious ones come up there,
right? Okay.
Things like that. But that was me. I'd done all of them, and to be honest, sport got me through my schooling.
So you said about Gazza being an all-round good at anything he'd done. You were kind of saying the same with you, wasn't you? You was an all-round athlete.
But I did all that stuff. But Gazza was just like all the table tennis and things. I was just anything that involved running. Anything that involved was energetic, I could do it all. It was only when I come 16 signing an apprenticeship, I decided I wanted to be lazy.
Right.
So I got a kick up the bottom by Ray Hartford. So that changed a bit.
There's that famous one at Gazza, isn't it? Before the semi-final, he's playing tennis, isn't he? And Bobby Robson had to go and get him.
Yeah, that was before the Belgium game.
Before the Belgium game, yes.
That was before the Belgium. He was playing against an American couple, and he said to him, he said, Gazza, by the way, had been swimming that same day, and Bobby Robson had just said to him, Gazza, you got to stop. We got a game this evening. Gazza said, well, hold on a minute, boss. Next point, I'll win the match. And he said, all right, then we'll hurry up.
But did he win it? Was that like? Did he win it? Yeah, did he win it?
Oh, he won it. Yeah, he won. But there's certain players, and Sir Alex was the same with Eric, where you have to give him that bit. You have to do it. And with Gazza, you had to do it. With Eric, there was a certain bit line the boss went down. We accepted it because Eric made a difference with us. He was a great bloke as well. Gazza, and he was an incredible player. So we knew that you had to soft soap him certain times. He could go and do certain things. Not that you will turn around and say, oh, great. You'll turn around and you'll shrug your shoulders. But the thing about it is that you know that when it comes to that game, you'll find that Gazza would mostly run more miles than you. He would virtually win a game on his own for you if he wanted it that badly. He never really went on a football pitch. Maybe once, I would say. There's been a few times him and referees and getting involved in things. But Gazza let himself down. The one that really affected his career was that game against Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. With that tackle on Gary Charles, which done his knee ligaments, which affected him going to Italy, which delayed him playing, which took its toll on him with his body, and the compensation injuries he picked up after that. That was that one moment of madness, one of those moments of madness which cost Gazza a seriously good career.
Yeah.
An even better career, because he had a short career over a short span of time, which was absolutely incredible.
Who would you pick, him or Eric, if you had a choice, or couldn't you pick?
Sorry?
Who would you pick, him or Cantona, if you had a choice, Gazza, or couldn't you pick?
I would pick Gazza because Gazza was English. It was an Englishman who was fortunate enough to play with from my country and train with him, and I saw something incredible in training, to be perfectly honest, with Gazza, and you saw it on the pitch. Eric, yes, I could pick Eric. Eric's easy to pick. I played with him for 3.5 years at Manchester United, but I'd always say Gazza, because Gazza's still one of them that is always going to be in my mind. And anybody who's an Englishman who loves football and from that area is always going to talk about Gazza. And even I think you'd pass it on. It gets passed on because when people in the press want to name someone as good as Gazza, that kid will always turn around and say, who's Gazza? And you'll tell them. And by the time 9 times out of 10, that kid will turn away, tell his mates and say Gazza was better.
Yeah. He was a phenomenal player. Really good.
What was it like with the Cantona kick?
Sorry?
What was it like with the Cantona kick?
That's been coming up a lot lately. I think that's an anniversary or something just passed, isn't it? But that one was about Crystal Palace. They instigated that, the way they reacted to it. The bloke who done it deserved what he got. Comes racing down the stands to have a go at somebody, and he done something which everybody wanted to do. I'd love to do to a fan. The biggest problem for me is that I had too many thousands in the stand who wanted to do it, so I couldn't kick that quickly. I've only got little legs. But Eric done something which was incredible. It was so high profile at that given time. I think if a player went and done it now, I think it would be softer in the way it's dealt with, because they'll bring mental health into it to cover anything about that player. If he was to do that, they would question the person who that's related to, and it would never ever be highlighted as what that was with Eric. We've all seen something that's gone on, something worse than that in about someone's life, which never got as much highlight as what Eric did. from what he done. The fella who he kicked never got questioned. They never dug into his life or anything. In theory, I think a lot of this, the football side of it, try to get Eric out of English football. That's what they tried to do, which it was a joke, really. When you look at it. 8 months.
8 months, that's right. I know he got a big ban. Did you win that game or lose or draw that game?
No, we actually drew that game 1-1.
Right.
And David May has to rave because no one talks about the fact that he got the equaliser.
Right.
Well, I'll shorten it. We just went into the dressing room and he's gone mad. He's gone mad at this. He's gone mad at that. He's gone mad. And I think he didn't want to go to Eric because he never normally used to go to Eric. And he just went in there and he just virtually just looked at Eric and he just said, after nailing everyone as he went round, he looks at Eric and just goes, Eric, you just can't do that. And then all of us, and all of us just looked at each other and you could just see everyone's shoulders. And we just had that moment, those minute and a half of just laughing to each other. And then, you go back on the coach, you spend 4.5 hours or whatever it was on the coach. And then the following morning, that's when realism just virtually everything was just about that, and it went on from there. But Eric done his time brilliantly because he had to do community service. He did it at the training ground. They're bringing in kids from all over Salford, all like from Wythenshawe, all the areas where kids are, where it's tough areas of Manchester, Moss Side, from Arncoats, bringing them all in. Eric, they had a load of coaches there. So all they expected Eric to do was just be there for the time and just walk around and just be seen, sign autograph. Eric joined in. After he trained with us in the morning, he joined in with them in the afternoon. And he was doing things with them and it was incredible. And a lot of people would say, and everyone just saying, no, they're saying it because it's Eric. I'm telling you, if he'd done nothing, I would come out and say he'd done his time.
Yeah.
But Eric done his time and a half because he joined in. Those kids, every time, they couldn't wait because they knew that they was going to get and join in the game. And then when they were picking teams for the five side, virtually there was like an auction going on for Eric to play in the teams. And sometimes you thought to yourself, well, there are a few parents there just offering Eric something for him to play with their child. It was just that, we finished training and the parents weren't really interested in us all driving out of the cliff. They was more interested in getting into the cliff to train so they can have their kid train with Eric.
No, that's brilliant. Some kids have got some good memories of that. I bet even some adults now have got some good memories of that. I bet.
Oh, yeah. That's why now you see a lot of them now, they still sing, songs about him. They sing 2 songs about him. One in the French national anthem. The other one is about is it the 5 days of Christmas?
Oh, okay. Don't know it. No.
Yeah. And they just go with 5 days.
Cantona.
Yeah, that's the one.
I've heard that a few times. Sang it all the time.
Yeah. Don't let anyone back home here. You say it like that.
Stinks, that old stuff. It stinks. It does. I go in there. Oh, it's been brilliant, mate. Honestly, it's been it's very Man U heavy on this podcast at the minute as well. So I'm gonna try and get a few people real football, mate. Real football. King Kenny, we want King Kenny.
King Kenny, I like it.
Instead of King Gareth, we ought to talk about King Kenny.
Paul, honestly, I appreciate you coming on. It's been brilliant. Do you ever, like, before you go, do you ever kind of look at your career and kind of think, wow, that was me? Because you like I say, you played in a World Cup final. You've played for Man United you've won the Premier League, the FA Cup. Do you ever kind of look back and think, wow, that was me? I did that. Is there any kind of wow moments with that?
The problem is that I'm greedy. I wanted more.
Right,
I'm gutted I didn't get more, and I could have had more. But sometimes I blame myself. I let myself down.
Right.
So I should have had more, to be perfectly honest. And everything about Manchester United in that time was about just always churning over, keep churning over. One was never enough. And I never got enough. Should have got more, to be perfectly honest. So I that's the one thing I would change. Is I tell myself that every single, people relate to that. I always say, no, should have got more. I never go back and say wow and believe that it was enough. It was what I got, which is a lot more than the majority of footballers have got. But there's that area where I believe I should have been, and I'm not.
But that's what gives you that desire to be a winner, though, didn't it? The fact that you're not content with what you've got. A bit like you say, Man United, they always had that desire to carry on, to get more. Yeah,
without a doubt, there is that. That's the way the boss was. The boss was greedy. Everything about him was about winning and winning. He never got enough, and he wanted more. He wanted, and it's mostly about himself. His self-ego was, and he wanted everyone else to have his ego and want to be talked about as one of the best because of what you've achieved and what you won. And he'd done that from nothing. And he come down from Scotland and he had to prove a point, and he kept trying to prove it and do it his way as well. That's the thing. It's one of his things as well. Is if you do it, you do it. If you're doing it right, you're doing it your own way, not someone else's way. It's what you are. And then what you do is you amalgamate that into what everyone else, what others are as well. And that's where your bonding comes from.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Now, Paul, thank you very much. Really, honestly, I really appreciate you giving your time.
Thanks so much, mate.
No worries.
It's
Thank
really
you,
good.
Paul. Really enjoyed it.
Paul, thanks a lot, mate. Appreciate you.
Paul, thanks so much, mate. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.